Hey, and we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing, and today we're talking about Gollum. Yeah, this is a strange one. It's a game about Gollum, or Smeagol, from the Lord of the Rings series. Now, you might think that that's a weird choice. Maybe sounds kind of awkward on paper. Some people would say like, who wants to play as this guy? But I was willing to believe. I mean, he's agile, he's scrappy, he's evil, he's sweet and helpless, he's volatile, he's sketchy. He's a complex character. Despite being like a gross little guy reduced to basically an animal, there's plenty of weird misadventures to fill in the blanks for old Gollum, and I was interested. I mean, I played all those weird Lord of the Rings games from like the PS2 generation, not the ones based on the Peter Jackson movies. I'm talking about the other ones. So I was kind of intrigued by this weird game. Plus, you guys mostly know me at this point. I just love a good single-player adventure. That's what I'm here for first and foremost. Unfortunately, this Gollum game is not good. Now, I'm not happy to say that, but it is what it is. It's a full-priced game, priced like a AAA, but it feels like it's barely scratching the surface of even like a janky, charming AA game. From performance to just the actual fun factor itself, it just feels like something went wrong here. And just so you know, we have been playing a review copy of the game on PS5, so that's the footage that you see here. And it's spoiler free, if you care. So essentially in this, you're Gollum, and he's telling his tale while imprisoned in Mirkwood about the time he was imprisoned in Barad-dûr, essentially Sauron's basement. He's tortured to give up the name Baggins, as you might know, and then he's just kind of stuck there as a slave for the orcs and a cult leadership down there in the Black Pits for a while. So basically the first half of this game is a flashback, living as like a slave of Sauron. Then eventually you get out and it's Gollum getting out of Mirkwood and back on the main quest of the Lord of the Rings, so to speak. Sounds ripe for possibility, right? Well, unfortunately, the game itself is a dull slog. And I think the first half is going to lose a lot of people because it's clearly, from very early on, just a game with not a lot of personality and not a lot in the gameplay department. It's basically like a slave simulator. Like, I know he's a nasty boy and he's in a nasty place. It's the darker side of the Lord of the Rings, but like, I also get that Gollum can be submissive and doing the bidding of others with this weird like machinations. Like, as a weird creature, I get it, but here it just makes for a boring game. Ugly orcs show up and tell you to go run around in the mines and collect things early on, and then from then the game, it just kind of feels like that's all there is to it. Where they could have gone for some kind of weird action stealth hybrid, like a more accessible Styx Master of Shadows type thing, it doesn't really end up doing much of anything. You run, jump, climb, sometimes hide a little bit, and make little decisions as Gollum or Smeagol that don't amount to much, and unfortunately, none of it is very satisfying. Platforming is shockingly simple. Every ledge is brightly telegraphed to you, and you can pretty much do it all with your eyes closed. Now, I know a lot of games fall victim to this, but here, it's even more mind-numbingly simple, and combined with this camera that is always up Gollum's butt, or it glitches out and it reverses the angle in a really uncomfortable viewing experience. I don't know what, like, it even tells you when to jump away to another ledge. So there's not really a lot of thinking involved and barely any challenge. It's just there because it's a video game. That's how it feels. Like, it feels obligated to just have basic climbing. He also controls kind of squirrely, which, like, okay, he's Gollum, I get it, but the controls don't feel good, and it makes for a lot of unnecessary mistakes. And when you fall into certain types of, like, water or mud, it can be really annoying because he typically doesn't have a way of getting out. And he's got a super short sprint, and his jumps look awkward when you line them up in midair. Like, occasionally, a run on all fours, like a big sprint and a leap, can be kind of cool, kind of feel a little animalistic, but that's about all I can give it. Most of the time, I just kind of wanted to get through it. And stealth is also just so unfortunate. This is where the game could have crushed. I love stealth games. There's barely a detection system here, and enemies are mindless. So essentially, it's just trial and error and not much to it. Like, the enemies might as well just be static surveillance cameras with instant alerts. He can sometimes throw a rock to knock out lanterns. That's like, options are pretty limited. I like hiding in the shadows and the bushes, and I like Gollum's little silhouette looking kind of cool in the shadows. It's kind of inspired, but it's all just so simple and unengaging. These stealth encounters just don't do it. Enemies are just not threatening or imposing. There's no sense of actual danger, despite you being a pretty helpless, gross little guy. Orcs in particular just look really silly. I don't know what happened here. They can barely even walk. They lumber around, they look like goofballs, and they're mindless. I've also experienced multiple instances of them just getting stuck investigating my location. Like, I was able to trap them in corners. They would just not go and turn, like, and I would just get them there and I would move on. That to me, like, feels like a disaster. And speaking of that, from a technical standpoint, the game just looks and feels old. Now, I love a game that's like a throwback to the PS2 era or a throwback to the PS3 360 era. I don't know, but with this one, believe it or not, like, this was one of the first next-gen games announced a few years back. And seeing this now almost makes it kind of feel like a weird, dirty trick. Like, everything in the game feels flat. Some textures are barely there, and animations are awkward. You'll see visual glitches here and there. I had one bad crash, but I've heard from other colleagues that their experiences were much worse. Gollum's face is sometimes pretty emotive, but it's hidden behind dull lighting and wonky resolution. And no other character in the game looks anywhere near as remarkable as him. Everything else just kind of blends into the gray. Now, I will give credit where it's due. I love a lot of the backdrops, like the stuff in the distance. The sense of scale of Sauron's might in these big fortresses, and then like the mountains and the woods, the cliffs, can actually look really cool and inspired. The actual areas you're traversing moment to moment, though, not as much. You know, they can look a bit nicer later on when you actually get outside. But by that point, you'll have seen everything the game can do. Just an uninspired, bland, bad guy, traversal, collect a thing, do awkward, barely there stealth, and a couple of annoying companion moments, and a strange minigame. Artificial intelligence is non-existent throughout, and there's like no escalation or progression. That is my thing. I don't mind a simple game, but nothing happens. It's not interesting. The game doesn't get harder or more interesting or introduce a cool new mechanic as it progresses. It's just kind of flat the whole time. Now, one positive I will say about the game also is that I like the dialogue choices. Now, not for any big change in the game or anything game design wise, like, it's all pretty simple and contrived, and like the cutscene will actually transition and you can see where possibly a decision made something slightly different. Like, not that stuff, but just the little dialogue choices, like depending on who you choose to embrace, Smeagol or Gollum. I just liked responding to characters in character as like nasty Gollum, just kind of being a mean little weirdo to everyone I see because I'm basically in jail the whole time anyway. I don't know, I got a kick out of that, just being jerk Gollum. But it's not a super long game, and like I said, you see a good majority of it early on and know what you get throughout, mostly. So the length and the fact that they did weird content stuff, like you pay full price, but for an additional $10, you get the lore compendium. Why is that paywalled? And I didn't even care, considering the story in the game itself was whatever. Also, Gollum has emotes that you can buy. Yeah, like, he's not doing a Fortnite dance or anything. They kind of just feel like they might have been idle animations, like where he just, like, there's one where like he tries to eat a fly and he falls over and he shits his pants. I don't know what they were doing here. Nothing about this game feels good. Like, I don't like trashing a game that maybe had not enough time, not enough budget, people tried their best, but this game asks a high price. It's got all this flashy marketing, the box art, the splash banner ads on websites and stuff. Like, it looks like a legit new Lord of the Rings game, but it doesn't offer a lot. It plays weird games with monetization, and the game itself just doesn't really try. It's a damn shame. And I could go on, but I think you get it at this point. I've played worse games, but it doesn't really matter. This one is not good. If you're an absolute diehard Lord of the Rings fan, this sounds brutal, but maybe wait for the bargain bin. But of course, that's a before you buy. You know how this goes by now, right? I give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion, and now I want to hear yours down in the comments. Were you looking forward to this game? Were you curious? Do you think I'm being too hard on it? Do you hate it even more than I do? Let's talk anything Gollum down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video and maybe it helped you out, maybe informed you, maybe just seeing gameplay helped you out, clicking the like button's all you gotta do. It really helps us out, so thank you. But subscribe if you're new, because we put out videos every single day. But as always, either way, thank you very much for being here, and we'll see you guys next time.
Must get out of the light, dear.